Hi, my name is Noel Davis with World Composting, and today we're going to take a look at the Vermibag Max. Now, it's been about 2 months since my last update, and my last update 2 months ago, we also harvested the bin. We knocked down the center section into the middle. We harvested that stuff from the bottom, and we really started trying to get this bin back into shape with the fact that we added a bunch of food, but also at the same time, there's a lot more space and a lot less compaction in the system. So with that, we're going to take a look and see how the system is doing. We have some food to add, we've got some more bedding material, and we have some charcoal that homemade charcoal that I made that we're also going to add to the system. So we're going to take a look and see how it's doing. Hopefully we'll find some worms in there, and hopefully they're pretty happy with the fact that there's probably a lot more space to move around. So with that, let's go take a look at the system and see how it's doing. All right, here is our Vermibag Max. Let's go ahead and open this up. As I said, it's been about 2 months since I last checked on it, but I wanted to give the worms time to kind of settle in after a harvest like this. So that's why we're doing this at this late. All right, I'm going to zoom in just a little bit there. See, yep, got a couple worms already right on top here. You can see one right there. A lot of springtails on top here too. That's normal. If you could see those moving around, they're little white specks. All right, now let's jump in here and take a look. I'm just grabbing my glove here. I do wear gloves. I know there's a lot of people that don't. I prefer wearing gloves simply because my hands dry out in these bins. But first off the top, only a little bit of cardboard left on top here, which is good to see. We also do have a little bit of these wood shavings that I put in last time. These are just pine shavings. And there are worms in here on the top. So this is looking pretty good. It's a little dry around the outside. That's unsurprising. But you can see underneath this cardboard dried out on top. So we're going to probably need to add a lot more moisture to this, but look at this. This looks like great compost on the sides. It's doing a great job. The worms, as I said, you can see the worms in here. You can really see that they're not moving around that much, but they're probably running out of food in here, and they probably need some moisture, it looks like. So we're going to be adding a lot of moisture to this system, kind of getting it back up into shape. Or at least hopefully. Yeah, this does look pretty dried out. It's one of the problems with my area. Sometimes we go from these high humidity points, and there's a lot of humidity, to very low humidity here in Maryland. And it looks like the humidity's dropped, and the worms are starting to suffer for it a little bit. They need a lot more moisture in here. So I'm just going to kind of stir this up a little bit. Got one dancing around right here. Oops. I don't know what happened to them. But you can see they're definitely moving around. They're definitely still alive. We've also got some little millipedes in here. These guys are good for breaking down compost as well. These are one of those, earth-friendly items that you want to, or animals you want to have in your system. They'll help you break down everything. So with that, we're going to just go ahead and mix this up a little bit. Let's check this side actually before we do this. I can still feel that there's a big gap in the center there where the bottom probably fell out. We can see this stuff looks great, this material. This would actually be, if I could actually harvest this from the top, move all this to one side, harvest this system. This system has a little bit more issue, I know, with moisture than my urban worm bag, specifically because it has this mesh top on top. It works better in the summer, but when it gets into these winter months and it gets drier in here, it doesn't work quite as well as the more sealed urban worm bags. All right, so there's not a lot of moisture in here, so the first thing we're going to do is just spread this out, and we're going to add some moisture to the top, and we're going to mix this around. So I'm going to grab my sprayer here, turn that on, and I've got an electric sprayer over here to the side. It makes it a little bit easier for me. We're just going to spray this down and kind of get everything wet, move it around a little bit, get some moisture in this system, especially in this top section. This has a pretty decent stream right now. I think it's pretty full, so I think my sprayer, so that way hopefully we can spray a lot of water in here. This really needs a lot of moisture. And I'm not adding watermelon as I've done in the past for a lot of my systems, so it's not going to be quite as moist, the food that we're adding. But I want to mix it around as I'm doing this, just to make sure that we're getting actually moisture everywhere and it's not just sitting on the surface. Kind of hose down the sides, my gloves and everything. Just kind of make sure that all this stuff is sort of getting a little bit wet. It's going to make it a little bit muddy, but that's okay. We're going to get all the sides here, including this front section. Make sure you get these piles of cardboard. You got to get them wet. That way they grow the mold and get the bacteria on them that's necessary. So that way the worms can actually break it down. There we go. See some clumps in here too. I'm just kind of breaking these apart, getting them wet again. Well, this is part of a worm bin sometimes. I've had my worm bins lately, they've been running really dry as the temperatures and everything. We've had dry spells and then wet spells, and it's been really hard to kind of maintain moisture in the house as far as humidity. So I've been haven't been very good about it. And these systems seem to be suffering. And this is all of them, not just this one, but I know that this one, there we go. I think that's good. Now, because we added that, we're gonna add a little bit of cardboard here that's dry. I don't want to add my wet cardboard that normally goes on top. We're just gonna just a layer of dry cardboard here, and this is really just to protect the worms because the food that I'm adding is frozen. It's gonna have a little bit of moisture in it with some ice, but I just don't want to put it right on top of the worms. Now, for food, hold on, let's just bang this thing. We have a mixture of stuff here. Just keep this, this is all frozen. I keep it in my freezer downstairs, which I've been slowly emptying out here. But okay, we've got coffee grounds, we've got some banana peels, avocado shells. So these things, I like to kind of break these up a little bit. They take a long time to break down. Another avocado shell, big avocado pit. Those also take a long time to break down in these systems. Some mango pits, these things really take a while to break down. But they will break down. All this stuff does break down in these systems. I just like to the more you break that stuff apart, the quicker they break down. Mango peels, these aren't gonna, I'm not gonna be able to crunch those, but please spread them apart a little bit. Coffee grounds, always a good thing to add to the system. This is gonna be a pretty light feeding. I have to come back pretty quickly. I thought this was a heavier feeding than it would be, but I couldn't really tell because of this sheet of ice on top of the system there. Or the food that was in the container. It felt a little heavier than it was. But that's okay. They can go with a light feeding this time. We can add in some supplements to the system for food. Just breaking open all these things to make sure everything gets consumed a little bit more quickly. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to put on a mask real quick. I've got one actually around my face already, but I might sound a little muffled since I got a mask on now. And what we're going to do is we're going to add, I've had this for a long time, but this neem cake. And it's decent food for the worms, but I haven't really been using it. So I'm going to just dump a whole bunch in here. I've been trying to use it up lately. So this is perfect that I didn't add too much food into here. But it's a little dusty, which is why I put a mask on. I don't really want to breathe this stuff in. And then one of the other things I have here, and this is charcoal that I made, and I had a video on how I did that in a little tiny tin can and a fire, but I ground it up a little bit. I don't know if you can see, but I ground it up, put it with water, so that way it kind of saturates the water. And then we're going to just sprinkle this right on top here. And I've been adding this to all my systems lately. This is just, this is supposed to last a long time in the soil, and it's something I think I'd be good to have in my yard to help with the biodiversity, and also it's supposed to stay for a long time. It's sort of a carbon sink. Now I'm just going to spray this down a little bit more to get a little bit more moisture in here, because this neem cake is very, very dry, as you can tell. Alright, I think that's good. Just wanted to moisten it up a little bit. And then one last thing I'm going to add here, and this you should always have a mask on when you're using, and that is crushed crab and eggshell. This is going to give the worms some of that grit that they need, because worms have a gizzard, and they grind up their food. So that's why I put that in there. That helps them consume the food. And then our last piece here is some paper that is pre-moistened. So this should be a little bit wet, but we'll see. I might need a little bit more water in here. Normally some water spills out. Might have to spray down this top section though. Normally, there we go. It's a little bit more moisture on the bottom. Maybe I just didn't add enough water this time. So we're going to have to spray this down. This isn't wet enough really. I like having a lot of moisture on top. But this, apparently I didn't have enough water in here. like I thought. There we go, that looks good. We just scrape out this barrel here. Get everything we can out for paper. Alright, we're going to have to spray this down. This isn't nearly as wet as I thought it was. Normally I had a cup of water, but maybe the whatever cup I was using, maybe it was wasn't as full as I thought it was when I dumped it in. That's okay though, we've got more water I can add. I've got tons of water in my sprayer here. And I will say this power sprayer makes everything a lot easier to do. Just fill it up with a few gallons of water and you can just sit there and spray for a while. Alright. I think that looks pretty good. Alright. So now I'm going to go ahead and put my top piece back on here. And I have this in here so that way the less moisture gets out, because as I said, this has a mesh lid on it. If I was in a very, very moist environment, this mesh lid would be great, but in the drier environment, especially during the winter, I have a lot of issues with it drying out. So, hey, you just put on a little piece of tarp here. That keeps in the moisture. The little vent holes around the side to let the still get some air in there, but that keeps everything nice and secure. So we're going to go ahead and close this back up. And that is my update on our Vermibag Max. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below and let me know. Thank you for watching.